Welcome to the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm Nicole Eaton, author of the books Rock Your Soul and Rock Your Comeback, as well as an intuitive therapist, and I'm here to remind you of your power. This podcast focuses on mindset and inviting the universe in to create a life that feels so good, so aligned, and so authentic. I hope you're ready. Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Eaton, author of the book Rock Your Comeback and Rock Your Soul. Rock Your Comeback is currently on sale for $15 on my website only. It is free shipping and $15, and you should grab it because we are doing a Rock Your Comeback book club starting January in the Comeback Club, which is my online membership space, which houses every course I've ever made, a new masterclass each month, a live Q&A each month, and I pop in weekly so that we can have pep talks and conversations to get you going on the right track in your life to help you truly rock your comeback. And if you use the code THINKS22, all capitals, it will make your first month of the Comeback Club $5 off. I've been thinking a lot about where I've come from and where I am lately. At one point, I was sitting here today and I was like, I want to make a little how did I get out of this chaos into my life? And then I had this moment where I realized that I can tell you my trajectory of how I was able to get out of chaos, out of debt, out of sadness and depression and insecurity. And I can give you a step-by-step in a logical way, but maybe the bigger how-to is the idea that we don't know the how. And so I want to tell you a little story really quick. As I do my podcast, I sit in this massive, beautiful office in my house, in my dream house, and I overlook my backyard, which is a beautiful pool and waterfall and rock slide and this really nice patio furniture. And I'm sitting in this room that 10 years ago, I would come to South Carolina. And at the time I was living in New York. At the time I was very, very broke, very in debt, on the verge of bankruptcy. And I was so depressed. I was a new mom. It was just really hard. And I would come into South Carolina at least once or twice a year to visit family. And a little while away from family, maybe 10, 15 minutes, there was this development that was just starting. And in this development was this house. It was called the Hopewell. It was the biggest of all the models there. And I loved it. I would walk in and I would go into this back area that just felt like home. And I would just envision what it must be like to have this house. And I would do this every single time I visited South Carolina. I would go see my house. I would call it my house. And I had to go see my house, and I would go and I would sit in that house and I would just envision what it would be like to be there. And I remember how calming this place felt. I remember how aligned it felt. And I remembered how far away I felt like I was from having something like that in my own life. Because at the time I was living in a flip house. And if you're not familiar with a flip house, it means that I was purchasing a house for $60,000 in order to try to make some money off of it. So I would buy this house that was pretty broken down. I had squirrels that lived in my attic and bats that lived in my walls, and you could hear like the squeaking at night. I had one bathroom that occasionally had mice in it, and I had no cabinets on my kitchen cabinets. And at any given time, we were doing construction on the house to try to improve it. So the kitchen stuff would often be in the living room, and the living room floors would be tore up. So everything would be pushed off to the side. And there was no part about my house that I lived in that I loved. It was always a mess. And as somebody who's an empath and energetically sensitive, you know that messes feel messy on the inside. And so I would go and visit this beautiful house, and I would go back home to the pure chaos that I was actually living in. And I remember thinking how far away this life felt. I remember thinking, how would I ever be able to afford it? And I remember family members coming with us to visit what I called my house when I was in South Carolina. And I remember my husband and I saying, "This is going to be your house someday," and them laughing at us, like, "Okay, maybe if you hit the lottery." And I remember that in my heart of hearts, I knew that was something that I really deeply desired. And I knew that everything in my current present life was saying that I couldn't have that I was never going to have it, that nobody in my area where I was from would have something like that. They wouldn't be able to afford it unless they were working, CEO of the major corporation that was in the area. And everything around me, in me, every story I had ever heard, every person who I told said, "That's not possible for you." Again, I do this podcast from that very room that I laid in the model home 10 years ago, envisioning it was mine. And I come down every day to my house and I'm grateful as hell for my house. I've never loved a place I've lived more, both physically and geographically, but also just I love my house. And the reason I'm telling you this is because if I were to give you a how-to manual, it wouldn't have step-by-step directions. Rock Your Comeback is as close as I can get to giving you the tools that help me shift out of my mindset and out of my frequency. But the how is something different. The how is things and opportunities and experiences and internal nudges that were placed in my person, in my experience, so that I would go towards them so it could lead me here. The how is not just trusting yourself, but it's trusting the universe. The how is knowing that what it takes to get where you want to go isn't as easy as steps 1 through 4. It's steps 1 and 1A and 1B and then 3. And then you might have to go from step 3 to step 2. And I was listening to this podcast that sometimes where you think you're going, it goes slower than you want it to go. Where you feel called to, where you feel aligned to, it feels slower than what you thought it was going to feel. And it was a good reminder that just because what you desire hasn't happened yet, that it doesn't mean it won't. It doesn't mean that your manifestations aren't brewing. It doesn't mean that every action isn't adding up. It doesn't mean that you have to know right now how to get where you feel called to go. Because if you would have told me in that depressed, broke, on the verge of bankruptcy state that I was in my flip house that was constantly under construction with a negative bank account half the time, I remember thinking $500-$600 in the bank was a really great day because I could see something. It wasn't in the negative. If you would have told that version of me in that life, in that paradigm, in that timeline, what I have now, it would have been so hard to believe. It would have been so hard for me to figure out how. The how happens with alignment. The how doesn't happen with you taking step by steps, although mindset work and frequency work does help. The how happens in the moment. The how happens with a message that you need to hear, or a book that's calling you to read, or a podcast that you're listening to that gives you a new idea to take your life in a different direction. That is the universe. That is how happens. That is how inspired action leads to the next right thing. Our mistake is that we're programmed as a society to buy into the belief that everything has a perfect step plan. You go to school, you go to college, you get married, you have a baby, you work a job, you retire, you do the retirement things, and you die. Everything that we're taught about how life is, quote unquote, supposed to happen is very structured, and one step leads to the next, which makes it hard to trust our intuition, because intuition isn't like that. Intuition is a quiet pull. It's a nudge. It's pulling you towards a place of feeling and experience. It's that inner voice, that inner alignment that says, "Ooh, this feels so very good. Ooh, I could just see myself here." I have a firm belief that if you can see it for yourself, it is a possibility in your existence. It is a possibility for your soul. We have possibilities at every single moment. every single moment. And we're making active decisions towards our destiny, towards our goals every single moment. We're either doing or not doing. We're either envisioning or worrying. We're either stepping into a version of ourselves that we love or continuing to spiral into a version of ourselves that we don't love. We're engaging in positive habits or negative habits, but constantly. Every second of every day, you're making some sort of decision that's for you or against you. And as we consciously and intentionally think about decisions for us, that's how we get in alignment. Like alignment seems like such a big woo-woo word, but all it means is that it feels good and right to your soul. That as you're doing it, it feels good and right. And you'll notice as you get more in alignment or more aligned that the things that maybe once felt really good and aligned no longer do. The things that you once did because you should probably don't feel in alignment, and now they're feeling even worse. And as you grow and change, your alignment's constantly changing. So how do we begin to trust the trajectory of our life? We have to get clear, and we have to start tuning in and listening to our soul. We have to start tuning in and listening to our guidance, to the things that feel really good. And then we have to trust. We have to trust both ourselves to hear our intuition, to do the things, the actions, and the decisions that are in our favor. And we have to trust in the alignment of the universe. We have to trust that even though I didn't know how I was going to live in my dream house 10 years ago, because nothing in my existence looked like it was adding up to that. And I just want to say that one more time for anybody who is living in a life they just don't want, they don't get, they don't like, they're struggling, you're unhappy, you feel insecure, you feel lacking in some way, shape, or form, that whatever is in your environment right now does not have to be your future. Whatever you're up against is not a prediction of what you can have, be, do, or experience. It just is what is already. And from here, you get to make new choices. You get to lean into the universe. I was listening to a podcast episode of a sermon from Elevation Church with Stephen Furtick. This is a church that I kind of came across because I used to live around the corner when I lived in a different location in Fort Mill in South Carolina. And he said, God knows you don't. And it was just a good reminder that your path is going to come to you. And it may come in ways that you didn't expect. He was using the example of how he was trying to manifest that he really wanted to reach 100,000 people in one sermon. Like he really wanted it. And he's had full churches and he's reached a lot of people. But the first time he reached 100,000 people in one sermon was during COVID, when there was only 5 people present in the building and the rest were online. And so sometimes the things you're going towards don't look how you thought they would look, but they're what needed to happen for it to occur in the ways it needed to occur. This is a good reminder to trust yourself, to trust the universe, God, whatever you believe in, to lean back into that. I think sometimes it's easy to get super reliant on yourself. And when we're super reliant on ourselves, we're in a scarcity brain. We're in a scarcity mindset. We know only what we know. And when we're trying to draw from only what we know, it feels like the options are super limited. But the thing is, the options are never limited. The options and the possibilities are always numerous. They're always wild. There's a possibility around every corner. And when we continue to believe in the things we feel called towards, and we continue to allow ourselves to play with possibility, and we lean back into the universe and say, I trust you to show me a better way. I trust you, universe, God, angels, forces of my highest good, to allow me to level up my life. I am ready to step in my purpose. I'm ready to be the person that I feel called to be. And I feel like I truly, deeply am. I'm ready for the happiness, the joy. I'm ready to choose to receive it all. And we let ourselves marinate in that energy. And and more importantly, we return to that energy when we get too lost, when we get too far behind ourselves. We allow ourselves to return to the energy where we are supported, where we feel guided, the tools, the texts, the sermons, the podcasts, the energy that helps us get out of our own fucking way. And when we're able to do that, it changes everything. It gives us the next right step. I talk about this in Rock Your Comeback, but My story wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. It wasn't automatic. It took more time than I wanted it to or thought it would, but we got here. It was opportunities that opened. It was callings on my heart that led me to take bigger leaps. It was things that fell into place that should have not otherwise fallen into place. When you are living in the present moment, you are a channel for your best and highest good. You are most likely to receive intuition in the present moment. You are most likely to feel joy that increases your frequency and puts you in a state to receive better than anything else when you're living in the moment. I love knowing, but intellectualizing is to some extent harmful if we're not using it. It's good to expand our mind. It's bad if we stay in the reasoning of why things are happening and why we are the way we are. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to create a life that you love? How are you going to lean into the universe? How are you going to trust yourself? I know I'm going on tangents, but it's where I feel called to go, because I just want to remind whoever's listening that where you are isn't where you are meant to be. It's not your ultimate destination. Your ultimate destination gets to be even better. But part of that comes with releasing the how. How does it get better? We don't know. The universe has something in store for you. I don't know what it is, but I know that it has something in store for you. I'll remind you that the universe doesn't speak first. You must invite it in. You must extend the prayer, the invitation, the guidance offering, hey, I'm listening. Show me what's next. Show me what's good. Show me what's right. You have free will. The universe isn't going to impose on you what it wants you to do. Could you imagine if you had no free will and the universe was just like, go this direction? Come on. That's that internal nudge. But if it just made everything happen for you, you wouldn't learn a thing. You wouldn't trust yourself. You wouldn't believe in yourself. You wouldn't step into the fullness and the full expression of yourself. That would be cheating. It would never. So here's your reminder that as you eliminate the how things get to happen, you just listen to what does. You tap into the vision of what your future can hold, what's possible for you. You open up your energy to receive it. You make intentional decisions about your day, about your week, about your month. You make intentional decisions about who you are in the world and how you get to live in alignment and how you get to feel. And that's your power. That's how things begin to shift. You find the present moment and you make intentional decisions every single day. And you allow those desires to be your guide towards the things you want so the universe can bless you. Because if you don't have any feeling of where you're going, if you are so focused on the external that you haven't stopped to take 5 seconds to check in with yourself, you're going to get ran over by life. You're going to be reactive. You're going to probably get sick. You're going to take on the energy and you're going to feel buried by it. I want you to have the things you desire, and I want you to step into the fullness of your expression. And I believe in you. So if you're in anything that looks like something you don't want, know that what you do want is possible and available to you. We can't decide how that gets to come. We can't decide always the step by step, but we can listen to the next right thing, and we can do the things we can to get in alignment today and to get present in our life today and to sit with ourselves and ask, where am I feeling called? And from there, we get to level up. From there, we get to make massive, awesome, fun choices. And it gets to feel really fucking good. You're never an exception to the rule of manifestation or the rule of the universe. No situation in your life is an exception to that. Invite guidance in. Ask for it. Demand it if you need to, and open yourself up to really receive the answers that you're looking for, the next right thing, the next right step. I promise you it's there, and I promise you it will show up, and I promise it will nudge you and tap on your heart until you listen. And I'm sending you all good vibes that you get to manifest and create your dream life, your happiness. And this month I am helping you out because Rock Your Comeback is $15 free shipping on my website, NicoleEaton.com. And the Comeback Club is $5 for the first month for the entire month of December if you use the code THINKS22. And we're starting the book club so we can walk through Rock Your Comeback together so you can truly rock your comeback in the new year, because I want you to have a story like this. I want you to be looking out your backyard and be like, I once envisioned myself here, and here I am. And I love you, and I'm grateful for you. And as always, let me know what you think. Share this with a friend. It is always so helpful for this podcast to continue going, for you to share, for you to rate and review and comment and leave all the love you can. It helps it keep going. So I'm thankful for you. Let me know what you think.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to get a copy of my latest book, Rock Your Comeback, The Down to Earth Guide to Reclaiming Your Power, just about everywhere books are sold. Join the Comeback Club for exclusive access, masterclasses, and more. And I always love to know what you think, so make sure to shoot me a DM or leave me a review. Thanks for listening to the Rock Your Comeback podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on the world. Now go step back into your power. The world's been waiting for you. But first, if you could, leave me a review or share with a friend. Thank you.